Recorder. What's going on, everyone? I'm Bill.
I'm Justin.
And welcome to
Couch
Reviews. Well, it's been a while, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's almost like Marvel decided to wait a month for their next show.
Oh, wait!
They did.
So that's why you haven't seen us around, unless you've watched my review of In the Heights.
Or saw us on the Super Review show, Mixed Bag.
Which is sort of our, I don't want to say our sub-channel, but kind of is.
Partnership?
Yeah, we're kind of partnered. We do a lot of stuff over there. It's a blast. We have some good fun over there.
Yes.
So today we're going to be giving our mid-season review of Loki. And interesting series so far, huh?
Oh yeah. Of all the shows, this was probably one of the ones that I was most assured was going to be good. I thought this was probably the safest bet that it was going to be a good show. WandaVision, I thought was going to be really up in the air. Falcon the Winter Soldier, I thought it had a really good chance, but, it definitely was probably one of my lesser... I was the least excited for that one.
Hey, well, they both ended up being very good.
Hawkeye, I mean, come on, it's Hawkeye. I'm sure it's going to be good, but come on, it's Hawkeye.
Is that after this one?
No, after this one's What If. That one I'm actually really excited for.
Yeah, that doesn't come out for a while though, does it?
Next month, I think.
Oh, I thought it didn't come out to the end of the year.
I think they moved it closer.
Okay, then. So anyway, Loki, let's talk about that, shall we?
So, previously in the MCU, I've always wanted to do that.
And that was very good.
The Avengers go back in time to retrieve the Infinity Stones, and they make a trip to 2012 New York City, where the Avengers have just captured Loki after the Battle of New York. They tried to retrieve the
Tesseract,
also known as the Space Stone. Although a very unfortunate and very angry Hulk knocked future Tony out of the way, Tesseract into Loki's path. Loki grabs the Tesseract and warps away. This is his story.
So it's basically since what we saw in Avengers Endgame.
Yeah, basically, except instead of following the Avengers now, we follow Loki.
Sort of like this. It's sort of like the side story, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's sort of like, before we get more into the plot, it's sort of like Thor Ragnarok. It's sort of like what Thor and Hulk were doing during the events of Civil War.
Yeah, or Ant-Man and the Wasp, what they were doing during the events of Infinity War. But basically what happens is what was not supposed to happen. And what I mean by that is that we find out about this group of people known as the TVA, who rules all of time through what's basically bureaucracy. And they're in charge of what's called the sacred timeline. And when you deviate from that timeline, you're what's known as a variant. And variants are bad, okay?
And that's what Loki is.
Loki is now a variant whose sole crime technically has a lot of crimes, but in the eyes of the TVA, his sole crime was deviating from the timeline.
Oh, the timeline.
Always follow the timeline. Do what Miss Minute says.
What do they say?
I don't know. Anyways, um, Loki is defeated by the TVA's task force fairly easily and fairly entertainingly. He gets like nightstick by this thing that makes him go at 1/6 of normal time. So it looks like a slow-mo shot of him going. But everyone else is going at the normal speed, so it's like, what?
That is pretty funny.
It's, and then you go into the TVA, which magic can't happen in TVA. Like the only logic that happens in TVA is by the TVA's own logic. Time works very differently there, and Loki is now being put on trial as a variant.
And he's guilty.
But Agent Mobius needs Loki's help for a case. So he convinces the higher ups, hey, listen, man, I'm going to take Loki here and I'm going to talk to him. Okay. And we're going to find out what the variant that we're looking for, where she is. All right. Wow. That wasn't a very good Owen Wilson impression, I admit, but I deserve that. I'm sorry, but everyone only does the wow. No one actually does the full on. So at least give me brownie points for trying.
Okay, you get 1 brownie point.
Thank you.
And I will draw it very slowly with this piece of an imaginary chalk. 1 brownie point. But you could lose that point tonight.
So, anyways, Loki's very hesitant at first, not hesitant, resistant to helping because he just wants to take over. Even though he doesn't know what he's going to do once he does take over, which we find out fairly quickly. He has no end game once he takes over.
No pun intended.
Thank you. And it turns out like even his glorious purpose is just predestined. And his ending, he finds out what his ending is, and he does not like it. He finds out that not only is he directly responsible for the murder of his mother, directly responsible for the death of his father, somehow plays into the destruction of Asgard, even though that's more Thor, but you know, he's an accomplice in it. And then right when it seems like he's finally reconnects with his brother, he gets his neck snapped by Thanos. I mean, my God, it's like the ultimate question. If you had the ability to find out when and how you die, do you take that? Do you take that chance?
To know how you're going to die.
And when? That Loki stared into the abyss and he did not like what he saw. So now he is rethinking everything.
And you know what I find very interesting so far?
Well,
That in the first episode, they kind of make Loki more complex.
yeah. It's funny. Loki has always been the most interesting character in the movie, aside from maybe Ragnarok and Infinity War, but that's because Loki wasn't in for that long.
Because Loki is saying, because Loki goes, I don't like hurting people, but I feel like I have no choice.
It's the big cosmic scheme, or whatever he calls it. And yeah, he's every decision he's ever made up until that point when he grabbed the Tesseract was not his own doing, was not his own choice. So yeah, now he's gonna be a little more willing to help out the TVA, only to find out that the variant that they're hunting is him.
He's the variant.
Only it's not him. It's her. Confused?
You damn well should be.
Okay. We find out that in the next episode, the TVA have captured a lot of Lokis and a lot of different variations of Lokis. I think there was a Hulk Loki in one of those bubbles that they were like showing him.
Yeah, I did see that.
And and then we have the variant that they're hunting essentially whoop ass with the TVA when they try to capture it, and it's fighting in this is actually pretty damn good.
It is. It's like going to an actual Marvel movie.
And I think that was Kevin Feige's ambition the whole time. Like these fights had to look like movies, not TV. Because you can tell the difference between TV and a movie fairly quickly. At least I can. Maybe someone a little less trained, it's a little harder, but it's definitely. But with the Marvel shows, it's almost seamless.
Because it does really feel like you're watching a Marvel movie, not just like a TV show.
Yes. With that said, the color palette of the show, I do not like.
Really?
So, anyone who knows me knows that color palettes are very important to me when it comes to movies. It's the aesthetic is 1/3 of the experience. So I don't know. I don't like the grimy greens and they I know what they're trying to do. They're trying to emulate kind of a Fincher aesthetic, but I'm not a fan of Fincher's color scheme either. I, it's a personal nitpick, and I recognize that it's a me issue. If you don't have an issue with it, great, fantastic. I'm not a
Amazing.
fan. I'm not a fan of those kind of color schemes where it's just kind of like murky and cloudy, kind of like how Solo was.
You kind of more like the bright and colorful stuff, huh?
Yeah,
Because that really screams Marvel.
Yes, it does. And I get why they're doing it. It it's to help differentiate them a little bit more. I wish they could have saturated the colors a little bit more, though. That's just me.
I could see that.
Um, but honestly, if that's my biggest issue with the show,
But that's a small issue.
yeah, because honestly, that is my biggest issue with the show.
Yeah, the action is really good.
Action's really good. Character moments are really good. When Loki is at his peak mischievous, it is one of the most entertaining things to watch. Each episode has at least one scene where it's just pure Loki at his peak
Lokiness.
Lokiness.
Two great minds think alike.
First episode, Loki as DB Cooper.
So you were DB Cooper. I lost a bet to Thor.
I'm sorry, that was amazing. I must have rewatched that scene like eight or nine times.
It's so funny. Apparently, Thor and Loki were betting.
And Heimdall was in on the whole thing too.
What was that?
And Heimdall was in on the whole thing too.
They're all in on it. And you know what? The story wise, like I'm curious to see where they're going, because something to do with like catastrophes or apocalypses.
So in episode 2, we find out after Loki was basically wasting the time of the timekeepers to help the variant escape, or at least that's what Loki wants us to believe. We find out that the reason why the timekeepers are never able, the TVA has never been able to find the variant, is because she's been hiding out in apocalypses where no matter what you do, no matter who you kill, no matter what you say, nothing's going to matter, because it's all going to be destroyed.
And they can't detect her.
Exactly. Because there's no Nexus energy being released. Nexus events are events that deviates from the timeline. Miss Minutes gives a whole lecture on the sacred timeline and Nexus events in the multiverse. By the way, I think that this show, a lot of people are saying that this is going to lead up to Multiverse of Madness. I'm also gonna say this might be leading up to an eventual Secret Wars.
Ooh. What makes you think that?
The fact that they mentioned a multiversal war that nearly destroyed the timeline, that's kind of what happens with Secret Wars.
The timeline gets destroyed.
Yeah, and what happens at the end is all the most, on an editorial level, what happens is all the most popular elements of the other timelines get merged into one single timeline.
Really?
And that is why we have both Peter Parker and Miles Morales in the same universe in the comics.
Or is... Oh no, okay, that was a dumb... What I was gonna... Okay, is that why we're gonna have for Spider-Man No Way Home, Maguire, Garfield, and Holland, or...
Um, no, that's more of a Spider-Verse thing. Secret Wars never really paid too much attention to the Spider-Verse continuity. Because Gwen Stacy or Spider-Gwen's still from an alternate universe. There's still other Spider people from alternate universes, even though Miles is in the mainline Marvel universe now. But we'll see what happens with No Way Home. Anyways,
Anyway, so far, I like where this show is going.
yes, it's a really entertaining show,
Sorry,
and
we can't give you guys a deep dive just yet.
yeah, because it's hard to, because there's not too many other plot lines we really need to mention other than that the Deviant is a female version of Loki who is more skilled as a sorceress. She almost gets her way with the TVA by breaking in, but finds out she doesn't have magic there. And then Loki forces him and herself into one of her apocalypses, which happened to be the worst possible apocalypse. Um, we get to find out more about their characters while they try to figure out how to get off of this planet. And that's the gist of the third episode. The third episode feels a little fillerishy, but it's a big character. It's an episode where we get to understand the characters more.
Exactly.
Not so much to move the story forward. And some people might not like that. I know there were a couple of people on the internet who didn't.
Oh, the internet.
But you know what? I liked Sylvie. I like Loki. I like them together. I like their interactions. The scene on the train where Loki's just getting drunk and singing like Asgardian hymns and all that is like,
It's hilarious.
Another. He does the Thor thing, which okay, that's not just a Thor thing, that's just an Asgardian thing at that point.
Speaking of Thor, you think Chris Hemsworth is going to make an appearance in this show?
Maybe not in this season, but maybe next season, because I think it's got a second season greenlit. So, hey, I'm up for more Loki.
Who isn't?
For the longest time, he was everyone's favorite character. Hell, he still is.
So yeah, I think that's pretty much all we can say, isn't it?
Oh, one big thing.
Let's hear it.
So the TVA, they believe that they are all created by the timekeepers. In the third episode, we get a huge revelation that no, they were all variants. They were not created by the timekeepers. They were humans. They had lives before they were variants. So something's not all what it seems to be with the TVA. So another mystery might be unfolding there. It's an evolving story where we don't really know where it's going because it twists and turns. In the end of the third episode, where it's when they're trying to get off this apocalypse because their ticket home is effectively destroyed. I can't forget what the device is called.
The temp something?
Pack.
Temp pack.
Thank you, Bill.
You're welcome.
Because the temp pack gets destroyed on the train. And so they try to board the Ark by force, and they try to prevent it from getting destroyed, except in the end of the episode, it gets destroyed. So, cliffhanger right now. And that leaves us into episode 4.
Oh, this is gonna be. So far, like I've been saying, so far so good.
So we just spent all this time talking about the plot now.
Okay.
Let's talk a little more about the characters. We spent some time already talking about Loki, how he's kind of trying to regain his footing because we've always been used to a Loki who has a plan.
Here he has no idea what the hell he's doing.
This is a Loki that's kind of making it up as he goes along. And he's not used to this, and we can tell. And it's actually kind of fun to see him that way because he's a little more. It's actually interesting because you would expect him to be more, oh my god, I'm on edge. But instead, he's just giving into his hedonistical urges. Singing folk tunes on a train while drunk. Prancing around Pompeii and telling people they're all going to die.
That is so fun to watch.
And that they're all from the future. And like they're talking about things so nonchalantly as the world ends around them. We're like, oh, well, it's a bit warm, isn't it?
Keep on dancing till the world ends.
Like, it has a cynical edge to it that you can tell that a Rick and Morty writer is writing this, because a Rick and Morty writer is writing this.
And yeah, but you could tell like that very cynical.
Now, what do you think about Mobius, Owen Wilson's character?
I think he seems kind of fun.
Yeah.
I just love that thing when they're at the whatchamacallit, when they're having lunch. Go, that's my salad. I like my salad. I want that salad. You remember that?
Like he's trying to demonstrate an apocalypse through his lunch. And all he cares about is his lunch, while Loki's trying to prove a point.
And you could tell, like, his relationship with Loki, like, you could tell that he has faith in Loki, but at the same time, he doesn't trust him.
And would you blame him?
No, I wouldn't.
Loki has given zero reason to trust him.
He has.
It's an uphill battle to win his trust, and he has no. It really doesn't seem like he has any intention of gaining his trust. But with this new reveal with the TVA, he might unravel something. Whether or not Mobius is going to be on Team Loki or Team TVA remains to be seen.
It does remain to be seen.
And who are these timekeepers?
Will we see them soon?
It remains to be seen. All we know right now is that they're lizards, supposedly.
Are they hanging out on the moon with Captain America?
My God, that was. I can't believe they made that joke.
But yeah, the timekeepers. What if they are a bunch of lizards?
I'm gonna laugh if it's like that episode of South Park with the dolphins.
Or the writers that the Family Guy one, and they're a bunch of manatees,
Manatees, that's what I meant.
and then the manatees. What if the manatees are the timekeepers?
Or, and hear me out, just hear me out. And I know this might sound a little far-fetched. Maybe, just maybe, and I could be 100% wrong on this, but there's a slight possibility I might be right. Maybe Mephisto.
Mephisto?
I just lost my brownie point, didn't I?
You've only lost half. You have one half of a brownie point. How does that feel?
Worth it.
Mephisto. Mephisto!
Worth it.
So, yeah, so
I mean, come on. After that first episode and that scene with the church, come on. That wasn't running through your mind.
it kind of was. All right, what other characters do we need to touch on?
We do need to talk about Sylvie.
She's basically the female version of Loki.
Yeah, but there's differences to her. Like, she does not want to be compared to Loki. Like, to the point where she gets offended by being called a Loki. She in the second episode, she was very on top of everything, like very much like the Loki that we're used to. And then Loki kind of puts a wrench in her plans, and we see just how frustrated she can get.
We do see how frustrated she could get.
Which I guess that's like the big difference between her and Loki is that Loki has an easier time just going with the flow, where she constantly needs to be in control.
I kind of noticed that.
Which, relatable.
Oh, that is. It is totally relatable.
And the whole third episode, they're trying to get information from each other, and they're both so unwilling to give it because they know each other so well as being a manipulative SOB, or I guess in Sylvie's case, DOB.
It's like they can't trust one another.
Because they know one another, because they're each other.
Exactly.
I've gone cross-eyed.
So anyway, okay, Sylvie, Mobius, Loki.
Those are really our main players so far, unless you want to talk a little bit about Miss Minutes. She's not really a main character, but
She's a giant talking clock.
played by Tara Strong.
Tara Strong. Oh, Kimmy Turner.
Among others.
Dill.
I was also thinking of the voice of Harley Quinn in most media except for the animated series.
Miss Minutes kind of weirds me out a little bit.
She reminds me of Mr. DNA from Jurassic Park.
And the rest of the TVA, they're just your typical paper pushing bureaucrats.
Oh yeah, let's mention this. In this world, like, magic doesn't work, Infinity Stones don't work, the TVA uses them as paperweights. That's an interesting concept. The giant MacGuffin of the first 3 phases of Marvel Comics reduced to paperweights.
I know, right? They're not so that powerful after all, aren't they?
So yeah, I'm excited to see what happens next. We only have 3 episodes left of this season, so I'm curious as to where it's gonna end, because halfway through and the plot, I'm still not 100% of what the plot fully is yet.
You think that might be a little concerning that we're 3 episodes in and we don't know what the exact plot is?
Well, some people are finding it concerning. But it's not like Falcon and the Winter Soldier where it's like, are there more pieces that need to be added to the puzzle? Like, there was a whole mystery of who was the power broker. Granted, the power broker was someone who was already introduced, but that was a huge concern in the show, was that, are we really going to introduce a new character this many episodes in?
Exactly.
So, at this point, yeah, all major characters should be introduced by now. You might be able to get away with one more new major character in episode 4.
Wonder who it's gonna be.
Oh,
Well, we're just gonna have to wait and see, aren't we?
yep.
Think
Next episode comes out Wednesday at 3 a.m.
Then this is a good place to end it, or
Yeah, honestly, not much else to talk about. Music, fantastic. I already touched on the visuals a little bit. Even though I'm not crazy about the color palette, the rest of the visuals are pretty freaking good.
and now the next time we're here, we're gonna see who are the timekeepers.
So we got 3 episodes left.
Let's do it.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for joining us.
And next time we might do a review for you in
The car.
It Might Come Back.
But we'll have to wait and see.
Because a lot of people have been thinking, wait a minute. COVID is basically, done. Aren't you guys going back to the theaters? Well, the reason why we do this Zoom thing, it really has nothing to do.
With us being scared to go back in theaters. We are in 2 different states right now.
I'm in New York.
I'm in Maryland.
Yeah. So with all this, couch reviews will still go on.
Yep. I've been seeing movies in theaters for a couple months now.
I haven't been back to the theater yet. It has nothing to do with COVID. It's just that there hasn't really been anything out that I've wanted to see yet.
Yeah.
Well, because if you've heard me say in the Heights review, I wanted to go see it with a friend in theaters, but he wasn't interested, and I wanted to get a review out to you as quickly as possible. So I thought, you know what? Let me just watch it on HBO Max. So, okay. So, till next time, I'm Bill.
And I'm Justin.
And next time, we might be in a car. Who knows?
All right, guys. Like, comment, subscribe.
Subscribe and hit that bell. All right, guys. Stay safe and take care.
See ya.